welcome back to another episode of the Playbook, you guys. Colin, Jacob, Sienna back here again for more Temple Athletics talk. And guys, it's beautiful weather outside, but we are still bringing you an episode of the Playbook. First of all, how you guys doing today? It's a beautiful 80-degree day. First, I feel like really good day of the spring we have. So how are we feeling today, guys?
My apartment is currently 76 degrees.
Oh my God.
So that's super not cool. But my room is somehow not hot. So I'm thriving right now.
I feel great. Only had one class today. If you can believe that.
It's because you skipped one, Jacob.
It's not true. You know,
it's because you didn't go to one.
I had right knee injury management.
No, you didn't.
But I'm great, Colin. How are you?
You know, it's been a long day. But you know, we're talking about Temple Athletics, so I couldn't be better. And what better way to start with the main sport in season right now, Temple Lacrosse, who is on a bit of a skid. The last couple of episodes we've talked to you guys, this team has been, red hot. They were 8-0, best start since 1988. Seemed like they were kind of cruising through this season, and they are now 8-4. And most recently, they have lost to East Carolina and James Madison the last two Saturdays, 8-7 and then 16-10. Now, those are arguably the two best teams in the American, at least the last couple years. Or last year, they were James Madison, the reigning champions. They're always really good. East Carolina is always a really solid program. James Madison, the JMU loss was the first loss by more than one goal this year. So again, the close games, but that was really the first game where they looked kind of outmatched. They went down by, I think, as many as 10 goals in that game and made it a little closer near the end, but too big of a hole to crawl out of. And yeah, they're now 8-4 and 0-3 in the American. A real difficult hole to climb out of. Guys, what's kind of happened to this team? What's flipped in the last month-ish from this team that started 8-0?
Well, Colin, you kind of mentioned it. It's like the JMU game was like the only game that it really kind of felt lopsided in a sense. All of the other losses were decided by one goal, and I think that's kind of just the biggest thing. You touched on it, just East Carolina, JMU being, the best teams in the conference the last few years. And another big thing is just, the conference record. They're 0-3 in the conference now. It's not like the soccer teams or like basketball. Like, they don't have as many conference games, so they just really need to pick it up. And I just kind of think it starts just a little bit on the defensive end. 16 goals JMU had, and then, just kind of building off that.
Yeah, I think kind of on all sides of the ball, they've just kind of, they don't have as much urgency. Like, they're still playing quick and they're still playing aggressive, but I feel like it's died down a little bit since the start of the season. And Jacob just mentioned defense, and I feel like that's one thing at the beginning of the season that we were like, this is the one thing that kind of has to step up, and I feel like it hasn't really stepped up, and then the offensive presence has decreased a little bit, so now the defense just can't really keep up with that.
I agree. Definitely the offensive, this felt like an offense through the first 8 games was, even the first 9 games, that first loss to Rutgers, they scored 16 goals. This was an offense that was just red hot always. But the last 3 games has been 10 goals, 7 goals, 10 goals, which, so that's 2 double-digit goal-scoring games, but really not at that same level we saw them at. So, again, this team, they're 0-3 now in the American, which is, in this conference, in Women's Lacrosse, that is an almost near impossible hole to crawl out of now. There are only 3 more conference games left for this team. So the best they can finish is 3-3. And, they arguably might have to win out to even make the conference tournament in an American conference that is still pretty solid. Guys, you look at the remaining games, their next 2 come against Old Dominion and Vanderbilt. Their last conference game is against Charlotte on April 17th. They closed the year with a non-conference game against Drexel on April 21st. Are you confident this team can turn things around? They've arguably played the 3 top teams in the conference already, so maybe things get a little bit easier for them down the stretch. But are you confident they can turn this around and salvage that great start to the year?
I think they can. I think the way they were playing at the beginning of the year shows that they have the ability to do that. And in these games, they went down by a lot, but they were able to bring themselves back. Each time they just weren't able to win. The JMU game they lost by 6 goals. In the other games, they only lost by 1, but they were still able to come back some. So I think if they kind of just figure out the little thing that's holding them back, then I do think they'll be able to turn it around.
Yeah, and just to build off of what you said, I think the biggest thing going into these next few games is kind of starting out with urgency because, as you said, Sienna, like there's been so many comeback wins because they've had those deficits in the first place. And these past few losses, you can kind of see the downsides of that when they're not able to complete that like miraculous comeback. So just start with urgency is the biggest thing, and just and Colin, to answer your question, if they can bounce back, I believe they can. I don't think 8-0 was really sustainable for as great as they were, but I think they are going to kind of come back to earth like in a good way, in the sense kind of like the offense will kind of get reignited. Maybe the defense will kind of stabilize as well, and that's going to be so huge, kind of just breaking even in conference play.
And Jacob, I think I kind of like that point of a sense of urgency. And for me, this next game is really important against Old Dominion this coming Saturday, April 4th. This Old Dominion team is also 0-3 in conference play. They're just 5-8 overall. And this is a game that I feel like you can really kind of capitalize on, rediscover some confidence, rediscover some ability within themselves. Because you go into a Vanderbilt team that is 2-0 in conference right now. That might be the biggest game of their season in terms of making this conference tournament. So for me, if they can come out against Old Dominion on Saturday and really kind of, showcase that team that we saw throughout the first month and a half or so and play with that urgency on both sides of the ball, it's going to be really huge going forward if they can kind of rebuild that confidence a little bit. So once again, very important games coming up for lacrosse. Only 4 games left, and again, 8-0 feels like a long time ago, but I think we're all confident they can. To answer my own question, I also think they can turn it around. Quickly move over to men's and women's basketball just to check in on the current transfer situation. I'm not asking you questions, Jacob.
Damn it.
I told you this.
I can dream.
Quickly over to men's and women's basketball to quickly check in on the transfer situation. The men's team has still not seen anyone transfer out yet, although the portal still is not officially open. To clarify, people who you see entering the portal are planning to enter unless they're a grad transfer or their coach was fired. The portal is not officially open until April 6th, but you can still announce your intentions to enter. You just can't really take any visits or contact with any coaches before that. So everyone you kind of see planning to enter is going to enter, but it's not official until April 6th. On the women's side, the biggest entry so far has been forward Jaleesa Molina, who spent 3 years here at Temple. She averaged 9.7 rebounds this past year. Was pretty much a full-time starter the last 2 years. Was an important piece in the front court the past couple years. And then Drew Alexander, who was the most productive of a really disappointing reserve unit, averaged 5 points per game. When she was on, she was a really, really good shooter, but it's inconsistencies for her on both sides of the ball. Ultimately saw her role kind of diminish and dwindle down the stretch. She really saw her playing time get cut into near the end of conference play. And they also, Cheyenne Swain Price, who hadn't played the past few years, also is transferring out. So a few roster spots open for that women's team to potentially make some moves that we talked about last episode, potentially seeing in terms of bringing in some new pieces there. Again, by the next time we talk to you guys, I'm sure there will be more transfers for both teams. There's nothing is certain in today's college athletics for the transfer portal. Sienna, it's that time again. We should find a segment for football just for Sienna, Jacob. We got to think of something here. Like, I don't know.
She'd be great at breaking down plays, formations.
She would not.
Because I know, Sienna, you love talking about the football, and unfortunately, the football.
I love talking about the football.
I know you love talking about the football. Football in general, it's your favorite part of this podcast, and spring football is still around. We are just over the halfway point of spring practices for the football team. Next time we talk to you guys, it will be wrapped up with the spring game on April 11th. So we'll have some good coverage from that. Kind of one big standout so far for me, at least, has been Sam Brown, the running back transfer from Rutgers, who had some injuries, running the ball really well so far in spring camp. Looks strong, looks fast, looks like he might have a spot in that running back rotation. But Jacob, you were there for a scrimmage on Saturday. Sienna and I were not able to go, so you kind of got a look on Saturday at what things currently are. Again, it's spring ball, it's early, testing stuff out, not really fully installing everything yet. But from that scrimmage, what did you kind of see when you were there?
It was kind of a lot of the things that we were already hearing. The defense still is probably ahead of the offense. It's kind of easier for them to learn things, but the running backs did impress me. Sam Brown, you mentioned. First drive of scrimmages, he had like a 30 to 40-yard gain right up the middle. Looked really explosive, and definitely someone that the Owls can rely on heading into this season. And also wanted to shout out to Amir Morrow. I believe he had a rushing touchdown, also had a few just good plays. So just there's a lot of versatility and youth in that running back room. Hunter Smith, I don't believe did anything. Kevion Mason just did a little bit. So it's kind of like a lighter practice for them. Ajani Shepherd definitely looked a little bit better, a little more polished than Jackson Smolik, but obviously we'll see there. Also had a few reps for the other quarterbacks. Yeah, also saw Brody Norman and Brady Palmer getting some reps. Cameron Boykin a little bit too. So it was just kind of like throwing a bunch of things at the fire, and that's pretty much just what you can expect this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the running backs especially. This is an offense that Tyler Walker wants to run that is going to be heavily reliant on the run game. And to have a plethora of running backs back there that can do a lot of different things, like a Kevion Mason who we saw be shifty, or maybe a Sam Brown who can get out in space, or Amir Mora who could be more bruising despite being a freshman. You still have Hunter Smith who you saw that big playability from at times last year. Even R.J. Blunt, who I'm going to keep talking about because he had an amazing senior year of high school. He could also have a role as well. So there's plenty of options in that running back group. But you brought up the quarterbacks. And an interesting thing that Casey Keeler said last week is that he wants to make the QB decision earlier than he did last year. Now, if you guys remember, last year, we didn't know who was going to be starting at quarterback until the UMass game. When we were up at UMass, we still didn't know who was going to be trotting out under center, whether it was going to be Giovanni McCoy or Evan Simon. Now, ultimately, it was Evan Simon, and he had a great year, but we literally did not know. Casey Keeler did not have an answer for us the week before the game. This year, he does not want to go down that same road. He doesn't want it to be as prolonged. We could see that decision much earlier in fall camp, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, which could be beneficial for truly getting reps with a first team full offense. Again, JB said Ajani's arguably looked a little bit better, a little more polished, a little more smoother thus far than Jackson Smolik from the Penn State transfer, but it's early. It's way too early to make any decisions. But let's have some fun and try to make a decision, guys. Give me your prediction for starting quarterback right now on March 31st with months to go before the season. Obviously, not much merit here, but let's have some fun. Give me your prediction for starting quarterback.
Let's start with Sienna.
From what I've seen with my own eyes when I've been at practices, I've seen Ajani Shepherd do a bit better, so I'm going to go with him.
I'm not ready to give up on Jackson Smolik yet. He had a lot of kind of experience backing up just really quarterbacks at Penn State. I don't want to say his ceiling's higher than Ajani because I don't think that's true, but I think there is a lot of room for him to grow. And Colin, as you said, it's still very early. We haven't even hit the summer yet, so I'm kind of like gonna keep faith. Not that Jackson's been bad in spring ball, just Ajani's just been a little bit better, but I still think it's gonna be Jackson.
I agree. Again, I think as of what I've seen right now, I'm gonna go with Ajani Shepherd. I think he might fit what they want to offense a little bit better as well, but way too early to make any real decisions. Really, I think a big measuring stick for that battle is going to be the spring game on April 11th, the last spring practice. It's not – the spring game used to mean a lot more years ago, and it was like a legitimate big thing. Now it does not mean as much, of course. Maybe it's a little bit different without the spring transfer window anymore, and you can actually showcase players now. So maybe it'll be a little bit more exciting, but is there anything you guys are kind of looking to see out of the spring game on April 11th? Any players you're looking to watch, maybe some positions you're looking to stand out? Anything you guys are looking for out of the spring game coming up?
I think for me at least, I just think the running back room is still just the most intriguing because there really isn't like a number one there. Hunter Smith and Kevion Mason are obviously going to be like the top two. So it'll be interesting to see how Andrew Pierce kind of like navigates that. And he also, Colin, to your point, he talked about having just like all-purpose backs, use that term, and just guys who can do a little bit of everything, catch, run, stuff like that. So quarterback battle, obviously, secondary will be a big one. Kind of see how the offensive line does. Obviously, they returned a lot of guys. Going to be one of the big points in this team. So, yeah, just a lot of stuff on both ends of the ball to look forward to.
For me, I'm actually looking at what they're not going to be doing as well because last year they used the spring game to highlight those areas where they needed more guys and went into the summer transfer portal, got more guys there. So I'm curious to see what skills aren't as developed that they need to work on a lot more and see like how far they come once the season hits.
Interesting perspective, Stan. I didn't think about it that way, but I like that. Look at you being able to talk football. You hate it so much, but bring up a very good point there.
Joke's on you, I had no specifics about football. No, that is my genuine answer though.
So next time we talk to you guys in 2 weeks, the spring game will be wrapped up. We will have coverage from Jacob there, a gamer, Maybe an analysis coming out of it as well based on the intensity of that spring game. Again, maybe it's a little bit different without a spring transfer portal window. You're actually allowed to showcase your players without fear of them being poached. So that wraps up our football talk as Sienna says a prayer. All right, let's get into some of the other non-revenue sports that are kind of going on this spring, starting with men's and women's tennis, both of whom are playing a little bit better of late. Starting with the women's team, they are 8-7 right now. They had back-to-back wins against St. Joe's 5-2 on March 25th, and then Villanova 4-3 on March 29th. So winning some regional battles there before losing to Delaware 6-1 the day that we're recording this, actually. So they're 8-7, really solid. I think they've surpassed their win total from last year as well.
They have. It was at 7.
Yeah, so they've surpassed their win total from last year. So a really strong season in year 2 under Jeff Brandis for the Temple women's tennis team. Well, the men's team, they're 5-7. Again, this team started 0-4, so they're starting to rebound, starting to get back into a bit of a groove. They won consecutive matches against Bryant and Norfolk State before losing to St. Joe's. So again, 5-7, but remember, this team started 0-4. They're playing better tennis of late. And now with the weather getting warmer, we're going to start seeing them playing at the year-old Temple Tennis Complex over on 15th Street, right behind the gym. So we'll see if maybe the warmer weather continues to bring some more wins for the Owls. Temple Golf is getting towards the midway point of their spring season. They've kind of struggled a little bit in spring competition after a pretty solid fall season. We haven't really seen that fall season translate until this most recent competition at the Cutter Creek Invitational, where they placed 9th, which was their best finish pretty much by far in the competition so far as a team. Aiden Emmerich shot 1 under par as kind of a standout there. So maybe that we can see the golf team start to step things up there. I was seeing you were potentially working on a story for him, so be on the lookout for a potential Aiden Emmerich story and maybe even a golf check-in story, guys, giving some potential shout-outs to future stories. Gymnastics wrapped up their season with a 4th-place finish at the East Atlantic Gymnastics League Championships last weekend. Finished 9-20 overall. It was just announced by Kirsten Johnson, the gymnast who did the viral floor routine last year with Kendrick Lamar songs, I think Glorilla songs. I'm talking way out of my knowledge base here of these artists, but she went viral on social media for a floor routine to those songs. She announced she was getting to the transfer portal as of Monday, March 30th, I think she entered. Yeah. So gymnastics wrapped up their season, and then crew and rowing got things underway as well with their spring season this past weekend. The crew squad entered the year ranked number 19th, and then beat number 16 LaSalle and number 18 Georgetown, only falling to number 5 Princeton in their, I think it might have been a scrimmage, but still encouraging signs from the crew team. And then rowing competed well at the Temple Invite with its first varsity and second varsity boats finishing second in respective races. So solid starts for crew and rowing as they get their season started with their eyes, especially rowing on the MAC championships coming up in May. So a lot of good stuff from Temple Athletics, but the spring's winding down, so that's kind of really all we had for you guys today in terms of Temple sports. Again, season's winding down, guys. We're just only have, I think, 2 or 3 episodes left for you guys. So, of course, keep listening, keep tuning in. There's always something going on with Temple sports. Jacob, can you ask Sienna where we can find all of our stuff on socials?
Is this a birthday present? Early birthday present?
Jacob's birthday is next week, guys.
Sienna, where can you find all of our stuff on social media?
That's such a fantastic question, Jacob. Thank you so much for coming up with that question all by yourself. You can find all of our stuff on Instagram at ttn.sports and all of our stuff on Twitter at ttn_sports.
And you can catch all of our coverage and more on our website. That's temple-news.com. Sienna, Jacob, that's temple-news.com.
.com.
Thank you guys for tuning in.